The Eagles just keep on making changes, as new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion has fully taken control of this offense, but while most of the changes are exciting, the latest move is a little bit questionable. On the flip side though, one of Mannion's former players just gave A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith huge reason to be excited, and another move might have actually just opened up for the Birds with the status of Dallas Goedert up in the air ahead of free agency. Plus, Jalen Hurts has had a pretty eventful week, and he just gave Eagles fans a reason for hope as well. So let's talk about all that and more starting right now. Well, the NFL offseason is now in full swing with the conclusion of Super Bowl 60 this past Sunday, and with that, we have our new defending champions in the Seattle Seahawks. But the Eagles are not done yet, and even though they have a lot of work to do yet this offseason, if they play their cards right, they very well could find themselves back in position to reclaim the throne this time next year at Super Bowl 61 in LA. And the Birds are already taking steps towards that goal, although I must say their latest change is a little bit questionable. But we'll get to that in a minute. For now, I want to highlight Jalen Hurts, because despite the disappointment of this past season and some of the concerning storylines that have already played out for the Birds this offseason, QB1 has certainly given Eagles fans a reason to be excited and optimistic moving forward into this offseason. So first off, drop a like down below for that. Let's see if we can hit at least 500 likes today. But yeah, I mean, for starters, how about the fact that Hurts was one of the Super Bowl legends honored at Super Bowl 60 alongside some of the greatest legends in NFL history such as Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Emmitt Smith, Jerry Rice, and more. I mean, that is obviously some great company to be in, and Hurts was the only active player to be honored in that way. So, that says a lot. I mean, there's just so much discourse constantly about Jalen Hurts, whether it's fans or all these dudes in the media that are constantly trying to tear Hurts down and discredit what he's accomplished. I mean, the latest argument being made is that Sam Darnold is now better than Hurts, which, no disrespect to Sam, he didn't necessarily play bad in the Super Bowl and they won the game, so congrats to him, but it was nothing compared to what Hurts has done twice on the biggest stage. Not to mention, Hurts' overall body of work is far better than Darnold's, and the Seahawks QB also threw the third most picks in the league this year. And then also, you look at the other Super Bowl quarterback in Drake May, and again, no disrespect, because I think he's a good player with a bright future, but could you imagine if Jalen Hurts did what Drake May did in these playoffs and in the Super Bowl? Like, we would never hear the end of it. So, I say all that not to discredit these other guys, but to just make the point that Jalen Hurts deserves respect. And while he may not always get it from the media and from the fans, he certainly gets it from the NFL and from some of the best players this sport has ever seen, which I think that tells you all you need to know about Jalen Hurts. But those aren't the only positive vibes coming from Hurts over this past week, as let's not forget, Hurts was also at the Pro Bowl before the Super Bowl, where not only did he have a fun performance, having 3 touchdowns, 2 two-point conversions, including the game tire, and a cool connection with Dak Prescott, but also, more importantly, he was smiling, having fun, and apparently seemed to be in a really, really good place mentally throughout the event, with reporter Rob Maaddi saying, quote, "This was just one interaction with Jalen Hurts, but I noticed he had a different vibe this week. Teammates noticed it too. A couple guys told me that they haven't seen him smiling and having fun like he did throughout the Pro Bowl. He told me he's in a good place mentally." So, for as much doom and gloom and just overall negativity as there's been in Philadelphia after this past season, whether it's been the fans or the media or some of the actual storylines that have played out with the team, I think what we've seen from Jalen Hurts over this past week serves as a really important reminder that it's not all that bad. The Eagles still have plenty of reasons to be excited and optimistic about the future, and judging by all the positivity, Jalen Hurts seems to be clearly, fully, 100% bought in. And obviously, one of the reasons for optimism is the massive changes coming to this offense, all starting with the hiring of new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion, who's expected to bring in a massive shift in offensive philosophy from the more basic, straightforward style of offense that we've seen throughout Nick Sirianni's tenure as the head coach, to a much more creative, more unpredictable Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur type of style and scheme. Which no doubt, that'll be a major adjustment for Jalen Hurts and the rest of the guys to make, but ultimately, that is exactly what needed to happen after last season, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this new offense looks like. Now, yes, there still are questions about the guy that's expected to lead it, given that Sean Mannion's very young and he has no experience calling plays, but ever since he was hired, it seems like everyone who's ever been around him has extremely positive things to say about him, with the latest of those being Packers' soon-to-be free agent wide receiver Romeo Doubs, as Mike Gill of ESPN South Jersey spoke to him about Mannion, and Doubs said, quote, "He had a huge role in the offense. The littlest things he focuses on. He is amazing at what he does. He's very poised, a great coach. You guys got someone amazing." which that's awesome to hear by itself. But then when asked about what to expect for the Eagles wide receivers and A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, Doubs only added to the excitement, saying, quote, "They can expect to see the ball. Get ready. That call is going to come." And when asked if he thinks that the wide receivers will be more involved in Mannion's offense, he said, quote, "Yes, absolutely." And Doubs obviously would know better than pretty much anybody, considering that he spent the past 2 seasons with Mannion in Green Bay. So I don't know, that just gets me so fired up, man. And I really do think that these changes are going to help to finally unlock the Birds' passing game and get back to the level of production that we saw in 2022, or maybe even better. And in regards to the wide receivers specifically, I just cannot wait to see DeVonta Smith in an offense that actually utilizes his skill set properly, assuming that is what's going to happen. And then for A.J. Brown, obviously, his status for next year has been a bit up in the air, but hearing him talk over the weekend, it seems to me like he is bought in and he wants to be back with Philly next season. Plus, Kuper DeJean said that he'd be surprised if A.J. does leave. And, also hearing comments like this from Romeo Doubs, I'm sure would get AJ fired up about what it could be like to play in Sean Mannion's offense. Now, in the scenario that AJ does get traded, then Romeo Doubs actually could be a good free agent target for the Birds, given that he's got that prior experience with Mannion, and he's been a productive player throughout his career. So if you guys are interested, I did videos on both AJ's comments over the weekend and the possibility of Romeo Doubs coming to Philly in multiple different videos, so you can go check those out after this one. One possibility that I haven't gotten the chance to talk about yet, though, is what the Birds could do at tight end, as of course the longtime Eagles star Dallas Goedert is set to be a free agent this offseason, and the general opinion seems to be that he's probably not going to be coming back, just given his age, his injury history, and most importantly, the fact that he's probably going to be too expensive for the Birds to afford. Now, if they could get him back for the cheap, I would 100% love that. I mean, Goedert's obviously a phenomenal player. He just had a career best and franchise record 11 touchdowns this past season, and at his best, although this past year wasn't the greatest, he's a really good all-around tight end that can both catch the ball and block in the run game. So again, I'd love to have him back for the right price. And actually, SpotTrack is only valuing him at $6 million a year, which, if that were the case, okay, then Howie, just get that done. But in reality, I just don't know how that's possible. I mean, this past year, he came back for 1 year, $10 million, which I felt like that was pretty cheap at the time. And then, of course, he went on to break the franchise record for touchdowns in a single season. So I'd expect him to get a little bit of a longer-term deal around that $10 million or maybe even more this offseason. But, we'll see what happens. Again, if possible, I would love to bring him back. But whether he's back or not, I think the clear next right move for the Birds is to select a tight end fairly high in this upcoming draft and to have him be the long-term plan at that position moving forward. But also, you don't fully want to bank on the draft as your end-all be-all at tight end, especially if Goedert does leave, so it would make sense for them to add somebody in free agency in that case. And, if that were to happen, a great option for them may have just came available, as former star Browns tight end David Njoku just announced on social media that he will be leaving the Browns this offseason, as he thanked Cleveland for his 9 years there in what was a heartfelt goodbye, saying, quote, "The time for me to find a new home has come." So if Njoku is affordable for Philly, then he could make a ton of sense as a free agent acquisition. Now, I want to make it clear that I think the Eagles need to draft a tight end no matter what, and Njoku is not a long-term solution, nor is he perfect. I mean, he's about to turn 30, and last season was a big down year for him, both blocking-wise and catching the ball, as he finished with under 300 yards receiving, as he both dealt with injuries that caused him to miss some time, and also the Browns saw the rise of star rookie tight end Harold Fannin Jr., so that aided in some of Njoku's playing time. But for the 4 years before that, and for most of his career with the Browns, Njoku has consistently been a really quality, productive player, so maybe on a 1 to 2 year deal, again, I think he'd make a ton of sense for the Eagles, but like I said, it really all does come down to the price. I mean, currently, SpotTrack has him projected to get almost $10 million a season, which, again, as with the Goedert prediction, I just don't think that number's super accurate given what happened last season. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think he'll probably get less than that. Now, would it still be affordable for the Birds? I don't know. Honestly, I think it could go either way, but it is an interesting possibility, and I think something to keep your eye on moving into free agency. And we'll talk a bunch more about free agency as we get closer to the start of that in around a month. But for now, we got to take a look at some of these coaching changes. As on Monday, the Birds officially found their replacement for Jeff Statland by hiring former Vikings offensive line coach Chris Kuper. Now, the positives with Kuper are that he does have a previous history with Sean Mannion in Minnesota. He's also worked under a Sean McVay disciple in Kevin O'Connell, and he's a former player, as he was an offensive lineman for the Broncos for 8 years. So that's all good. However, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of this hire for the simple reason that he wasn't very successful in his time as the Vikings O-line coach. I mean, you can look at the numbers here in this chart. In 2022, the Vikings ranked 25th in sacks allowed, 22nd in pressure rate, and 26th in yards per attempt. And going down the list, you see in 2023, they were 21st, 30th, and 24th in those areas respectively. In 2024, they were 23rd, 28th, and 26th. And in 2025, they were 31st, 29th, and 11th. So again, pretty bad numbers across the board. Not to mention the Vikings seeing guys like Ed Ingram and Garrett Bradbury go elsewhere and immediately have success that they simply didn't have under Chris Kuper. Plus, the Vikings literally let his contract expire this offseason, and Vikings fans don't exactly love him either. Now, yes, Minnesota does invest far less in the O-line than the Eagles do, and they also had a lot of injury issues, and Kuper did see some development with Christian Darrisaw. So again, there are positives, there's reason to be optimistic, and maybe working under Sean Mannion in Philly with some more talented linemen, assuming guys can get healthy, will be a better fit for him. But still, I am much more skeptical of this hire than I am excited about it. Now, as far as the other coaching changes go, Jeff McLane put out a huge report on Tuesday where he gave us some updates, with the main ones being that both running back coach Jamal Singleton and wide receiver coach Aaron Moorehead will remain on staff going forward. Meanwhile, so will former pass game coordinator Parks Frazier and assistants Greg Austin, Eric Dickerson, and Montgomery Vigorder in unknown roles. And then at QB coach, they're still undecided as to what they're going to do there, but Scott Loeffler is still currently on staff. And then Kevin Patullo is still with the team as well, but his future is uncertain. So I think the big thing for me that stands out is that wide receiver coach Aaron Moorehead is still going to be on staff, which I think for a lot of fans, that's kind of a head scratcher because we've never really seen him really develop anybody significantly. And last year, it just seemed like the wide receiver room was lacking in fundamentals and effort at times. So I thought it might have been time to move on, but I don't know. I guess it is kind of hard to judge the performance of a wide receiver coach from a fan perspective, especially when you have two superstars in A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith that are always going to get their numbers. And, I don't know. Maybe we're being too hard on the guy. Kenny Henderson points out here on Twitter that Jahan Dotson has spoke highly of him. Darius Cooper and Johnny Wilson have developed to some degree under him. So, it is what it is, I guess. Hopefully the wide receivers just look better in this new offense. And then also get this guy, Kevin Patullo, off the staff. We don't need him. And all that said, you guys know that I'm going to be continuing to cover all the Eagles news throughout this entire offseason, so if you don't want to miss anything, make sure you subscribe and you turn on notifications so you don't miss, videos, live streams, shorts. I got it all coming. So again, do that, and also hit the like button as well if you do want to show some support. It really does help me out a ton, guys. So let's see if we can get to at least 500 likes today, and also hit the hype button because that helps me out a ton as well, and leave a comment just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. What are your thoughts on Chris Kuper? Again, just give me all your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you do want to watch another Eagles video, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.